What is up, guys? I am back again with another book review for all of you, and today I'm going to be covering again something from the Warhammer 40,000 universe. However, this story is going to be very different compared to the normal stories of Warhammer that I've covered before. See, instead of a story revolving around being on the front lines with the Tanith First and Only or the Gaunt's Ghosts, or even dealing with something from the Chaos Space Marines and their return from exile within the Warp, or even just any other Space Marine story in general, I'm going to cover something that is very different. See, a lot of people don't know that Warhammer actually has a subsection of stories revolving around murder mystery and crime. And today I'm going to cover one of those many different books called Bloodlines, done by Chris Wraight. And I apologize if I butchered that name. But honestly, to be serious with you guys, for the longest time I never really gave much thought to the, murder mystery genre in general. I mean, I know about Sherlock Holmes with Moriarty the Patriot, and I also had experienced it somewhat with the Dresden Files. But seeing as how the Dresden Files was more supernatural, magic and stuff like that, it didn't really have a whole lot when it came to murder mystery. Granted, it was interesting to see how it could solve crimes like that, but this is completely different. So, in Bloodlines, we follow the story of Probator Augusto Zidorov, a man who works on the city of Barangantua. And from there, he is tasked by his boss to essentially find the missing son of a rich and powerful, I want to say, financer, or just a very rich aristocrat. But honestly, I will tell you this, guys, the story is a bit slow, but as you keep reading, it keeps ramping up in its intensity. So the whole premise of the story is finding this lost son of a rich aristocrat. And honestly, one of the biggest things I definitely liked about this story was the sense of scenery it gave you. You see the main difference between the upper and lower classes, as well as even in the struggling middle class, where we see different scenarios where the city can be either a run-down garbage heap or looking like something straight out of a familiar palace with mansions, living the high life, things of that nature. But honestly, I actually really appreciated that, how it gave a different perspective, and how it gives us not only Zidorov trying to solve this investigation, but we also see his struggles throughout his daily life when it comes to the constant grind of the life that he lives, of solving crimes and trying to clean up the scum off the street bit by bit, and yet it seems like it never ends. We also see that he struggles at home with a child who wants to join the Imperial Guard. And keep in mind, the Imperial Guard has a massive casualty rate, which is why he fears for her safety and simply wants her to join the Planetary Defense Force, or something safer that is not the front lines and not the Imperial Guard. Meanwhile, he has a wife and lover whom works another job as, I want to say, a nurse or a caretaker. Now, definitely a nurse, who constantly has to deal with the struggles of people coming in and whom she can only give patch jobs to before sending them back out and possibly coming back even worse than before. So I love how this story tackles things like the struggles of just living a daily life, seeing how wrecked society can be, as well as also the struggles of faith, which is something that is definitely tackled throughout the story, with Zidorov struggling to have faith in the Emperor of mankind, which, as you all know, within Warhammer, such doubts as that is considered heresy. But I do like how it is tackled with just a normal human being, just trying to get by in their life instead of a soldier on the front lines or a space marine because their faith is already staunch and unwielding because they have to have faith in order to survive the next battle. But when you're just a regular guy trying to keep the streets of your city clean, that faith can definitely be worn after a while. And I'll say, I love the side stories going on here of how at one point we are left to assume that he's seeing another woman, but in reality he's just meeting up with a cult that worships the original, I want to say, original religion of their home planet before the Imperium visited them and colonized their world. And I gotta say, that was definitely a twist I honestly was not expecting. I fully was expecting that he would have been having an affair with his wife. But that surprise that it turns out he's just in a religious cult definitely caught me off guard and said, wow, now that's a twist. Overall, though, the further he investigates, you see just how twisted and messed up some of these aristocrats can be, with things like false marriages and illegal harvesting of stem cells in order to keep themselves young. And Jesus Christ, the procedure that they describe for harvesting the stem cells from other people, especially from young people, holy cow, that's like nightmare fuel right there. But again, I do like how it also deals with things like showing him trying to solve other minor cases, trying to juggle his family life, which seems to be collapsing, his own personal health, and just feeling his own personal faith, as well as also this massive case that he seemingly has multiple dead ends, and he is just trying to find the next step to solving the case, which he eventually does. And I gotta say, the lead up to the resolution and how the case concludes, how this story itself concludes, was definitely what kept me hooked throughout the final part of it. Because I remember reading the last couple hundred pages, trying to see how much further the story goes and how just much further it's going to escalate. And my God, like I said before, this book will start off slow, but the further you read, the more it seemingly ramps up. So in the end, I cannot recommend Bloodlines enough, especially if you're in the mood for a classic murder mystery, as well as something a little different from the Warhammer universe instead of just front lines, on the ground, combat all the time. If you just want to see the average man trying to make a difference in his city, while struggling with his own home life, this one is definitely a fun one to read, and once again, I cannot recommend it enough. And who knows, I might actually explore more of the Warhammer Crime series just from Bloodlines. Anyways, thank you all again for listening. Hope you have an awesome day, and this is Rambling Collector signing off.